concerns very seriously. It's trying to fix its policies and procedures. A senior FBI official just told reporters that the FBI is suffering from budget cuts, and that's one of the challenges here. But this audit reviewed a sample of 327 cases and found that 42 were so deficient that the auditors felt compelled to contact the FBI right away. That doesn't usually happen during an audit, and urge immediate attention. And so in 47% of the cases examined, the IG found no evidence that the FBI complied with the so-called mandatory reporting requirements. They're required, when confronted with child sex allegations, and it's not their jurisdiction, to tell the state and local police about it. And in many cases, they didn't do it. So we're still reading through the details of this report, Jose. It's a grim document that essentially shows that for all the promises that the FBI made about cleaning up its act on child sex abuse, it still seems to have a long way to go, Jose.
Yeah, I mean, Frank, what stands out in what you're just hearing?
Yeah, a couple of things has struck me as a senior official at the FBI has briefed us on background. And look, I supervised the Crimes Against Children Squad for a period of my FBI career in San Francisco. A couple of things. First, they've cited a spike that's been recognized across law enforcement in the number of these cases. And as Ken said, they did cite resources and budget cuts. That's one thing. But there's no excuse here. And the FBI is not trying to offer excuses, but rather insights. And I can tell you, crimes against children is different than almost anything the FBI does. Why? First, there's almost an immediate jurisdictional question. Whose is this? Is it ours? Is it federal? Is it local? Is there some interstate nexus? And that can't get in the way of saving and rescuing a child victim, number one. Number two, in almost everything else the FBI does, terrorism, espionage, organized crime, gangs, you wait to wrap up a whole cell. Have we got everybody identified? Are we ready to strongly prosecute this case? You can't always do that in a sex crimes against children allegation. You can't wait. And so that has to change culturally to intervene, even when you risk making a false accusation.
Yeah, I mean, and, you know, I understand changing culture, but, and Ken was clear on this, this is a new report, a new audit after some very serious issues were brought up in the earlier one. And I'm just wondering, you know, change of culture when you have 327 cases and Ken once again explaining to us that 42 of them were so critically deficient that the officials had to bring them up to the FBI. I'm just wondering, Frank, what is a necessary culture change and what is just complete abandoning of a responsibility of issues that already exist?
Yeah, I'm as frustrated as you sound on this. I would have thought after Dr. Nasser case, things would have dramatically changed, and we need to look at how far back this IG report is going. But I can tell you this, they have cited that tools, electronic tools, are being put in place so that it would trigger, hey, you haven't alerted local police yet. Hey, you haven't taken a step yet. That notification requirement is now going to be embedded electronically, so hopefully making it what we used to call agent-proof. It's going to have to happen or a supervisor is going to get alerted.
Ken Delaney and Frank Figliuzzi, thank you so very much appreciate it. And now to the race for the White House. Both campaigns will be out on the trail today. Vice President Harris still in southeast Georgia, where she will hold a rally later today. Former President Trump will be in Michigan and Wisconsin, while his running mate, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, will speak to Firefighters Union in Boston and attend a roundtable discussion in Florida. And this afternoon, the Vice President and Governor Walz will sit down for their first joint interview that will air this evening. With us now, NBC's Mike Memoli with the Harris campaign in Savannah, Georgia, NBC's Vaughn Hilliard with the Trump campaign in Potterville, Michigan, and Jeff Bennett, co-anchor of the PBS NewsHour and an MSNBC political contributor. So, Vaughn, first, we understand there's new information about the controversy surrounding former President Trump's visit to Arlington National Cemetery.
Exactly. We're just getting some more details over this, what was described to be a brief altercation at the site there as Donald Trump was visiting Section 60 of Arlington National Cemetery. This included a Trump campaign staffer as well as an official from the cemetery, who is helping oversee that visit. And our own Courtney Kuby at the Pentagon has exclusively obtained the instructions that were provided by the cemetery to the Trump campaign ahead of this visit. And there's two direct lines that I want us to look at. One was, quote, gravesite visits by families and guests will follow Arlington National Cemetery's established policies for Section 60. The instructions go on to say, quote, photographers, content creators, or any other persons attending for purposes or in direct support of a partisan political candidate's campaign are not permitted on the Arlington National Cemetery installation here. And of course, late last night, it was the Trump's campaign that put out not only a TikTok video, but they put out other content from that Arlington National Cemetery visit, marking the withdrawal from Afghanistan that led to 13 U.S. service personnel dying. This was a moment here that we are still trying to get some detailed information on. But one, I want to let you listen to J.D. Vance, Donald Trump's running mate, directly respond to yesterday. Take a listen.
I mean, you guys in the media, you're acting like Donald Trump filmed a TV commercial at a gravesite. He was there providing emotional support to a lot of brave Americans who lost loved ones they never should have lost, and there happened to be a camera there, and somebody gave him permission to have that camera there. This is not a gross violation of federal law.
Of course, former President Trump was invited by the family of some of those service personnel who were killed and buried there in Section 60. But of course, the other concern were the other grave sites that were within camera shot there, and what ultimately, to our understanding, led to that altercation between a Trump campaign staffer and an official from Arlington National Cemetery, Jose.
And Mike, meanwhile, the vice president is the first Democrat to campaign in Southeast Georgia since Bill Clinton in 1992. What's the thinking here?
Well, Jose, a big part of politics is just showing up, and the Harris campaign is trying to send a message, not just by bringing the Harris-Walz ticket here to Georgia, a state that only recently joined the battleground map, but specifically to this part of Georgia. We saw Vice President Harris and her running mate, Governor Walz, yesterday visiting a high school in Liberty County, visiting a restaurant here in Savannah. These are counties, yes, that Hillary Clinton won in 2016, President Biden won in 2020, but the Democratic margins grew each time. They want to continue to grow those margins outside of Atlanta, that Democratic base, because it all adds up to a winning formula in a state that Biden only won by under 12,000 votes in 4 years ago. We saw a new Fox News poll that shows actually Vice President Harris leading Donald Trump here by 2 points. This is all part of this strategy to try to keep playing offense rather than defense, and part of that is the message of this candidacy. We heard from voters in this part of the state yesterday talking about what's attracting them to the vice president. Take a listen.
I think as a voter, I'm very excited. She brings a new sense of hope, inspiration, and enthusiasm about what's to come as it relates to being an American and making sure that we have policies that are inclusive to all people, not just a few.
So for the woman president to come into play, I think that'd be great. And she doesn't seem to have a lot of history of negativity like Trump.
And of course, Jose, the other place that a lot of people think Harris and Walz need to show up is in media interviews. The first interview today, the joint interview of Harris and Walz with CNN, going to get a lot of attention. Expectations are that there will be additional interviews, many people wanting to hear from the vice president, not just about how she differs from Donald Trump, her Republican opponent, but ways in which she would potentially break from her former running mate, President Biden. I should also mention that Governor Walz, who joined the vice president here on that bus tour yesterday, will be heading to another state where Democrats are trying to play offense. He'll be tomorrow campaigning in North Carolina, which is the closest Trump state that the Democrats think they can maybe flip this time around.
Jeff, how significant is it that the Democratic ticket is doing the swing through Southeast Georgia?
It's hugely significant, Jose. When Democrats say they're taking no vote for granted this election cycle, this is what this looks like, going into southeastern Georgia, going into counties outside of Fulton County, outside of Atlanta, Georgia, going into places that typically tilt or lean Republican and trying to run up the margins. The one thing on which Democrats and Republicans agree in this election season is that this is a race that will be won on the margins. And so what you're seeing with the Harris and Walz campaign they've really tried to corral all of this energy, enthusiasm, and historic fundraising haul, more than $500 million since she became the nominee, and use it in these sort of get out the vote operations and going into places where they think that they can find more paths to 270 electoral votes come November. So this is a real way of sustaining the energy and sustaining the boost from the base that Harris got coming out of the convention. And then, as Mike points out with this interview tonight, this is another way of continuing that messaging. I'll be watching to see how much distance, if at all, she puts between herself and President Biden on key issues. We've already seen her really lean into that economic populism, talking about trying to combat high grocery prices and all of that. Does the same hold true for her position on Israel policy, on the humanitarian situation in Gaza? But as Democrats see it, the momentum and the energy is on their side right now, and they're trying to fuel this for the next 70-plus days to Election Day.
And meanwhile, Vaughn, what message is Trump going to be sending with his appearances in Michigan and Wisconsin today?
Right. He has two stops here this afternoon, both in more rural communities here. And the first event here in Michigan will be at a steel manufacturing facility. And the campaign is at least touting this event as one that is going to be focusing on inflation and manufacturing. And the Wisconsin event, he will be joined by Tulsi Gabbard. It is what is being promoted as a town hall in which they are going to have what they are calling undecided voters asking questions of the Republican nominee. But at the same time, well, that is the way that the campaign is promoting these two events. Donald Trump's social media account over the last 36 hours would suggest that he is focused in several other places, not only the interview that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are slated to take part in later today, but also on the new NFT digital trading cards that he is promoting and intends to make money off of which you can buy for $1,500 a physical card that would get you part of his suit from the day that he was shot in Pennsylvania. And other social media posts of his include the assertion that his perceived political enemies, including Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Anthony Fauci, and others, including Hillary Clinton, should be arrested, as well as calling for the indictment in the prosecution of Jack Smith, as well as the January 6th Select Committee members. And then just here this morning, he is turning his followers to a new cryptocurrency project that is being launched by his sons. We are still waiting to get more details on what that crypto project would be and the extent to which Donald Trump intends to profit off of such a project here. But there is a lot at play here for the Republican nominee 2 months out from Election Day, Jose.
Mike Membley, Vaughn Hilliard, Jeff Bennett, thank you very much. After a break, what brand new GDP numbers tell us about the state of our economy? Plus, tonight, Vice President Harris and Governor Walz are sitting down for their first joint interview. We'll dig deeper into what to watch for. And a major hearing today for the man accused of murdering four University of Idaho students in 2022. What to expect ahead? Next. We're back in 90 seconds. You're watching Jose Díaz-Balart Reports on MSNBC.
The best things in life come in twos. 2 scoops of ice cream, 2 thumbs up. And now, buy any phone when you switch to Consumer Cellular and get 2 months of service free. That's right, 2 months free. All with fast, reliable, nationwide coverage. Make the switch today.
With Click Eyewear, say goodbye to losing your readers and hello to convenience.
Click readers feature strong front connection magnets, so I don't have